Hey guys, welcome to Life as a Four, the podcast. I am your host, T.S. White. You can also call me Sean. Today we have an amazing episode because I got the opportunity to interview someone that is just fantastic in the enneagram world. She is a coach, but she will tell you more about that here in a little bit. But let's just get to that music right now. All right, guys, so here is the first episode that I have been waiting a long time to make because I've been wanting to interview Elisabeth Bennet for quite some time. And a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity. And so here is the conversation, or at least part of the conversation that her and I had. I hope you guys really enjoy.
Is Elisabeth Bennet, and I am an Enneagram 4 Wing 5. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I have a husband who's an Enneagram 1 Wing 9, and I have 2 kids who are under the age of 3, so I'm pretty busy. Along with all of that, just being a stay-at-home mom and wife, I also am a full-time writer and part-time Enneagram coach. So both of those things take up the majority of my time when my kids can be watched. I
I bet.
run the pages on Instagram, enneagram.life, as well as my author page, which is author.elizabethbennet. And then I also run fourish _ and I know it. I do really love Instagram. So those things are really fun and are an outlet for me. But I first got into the Enneagram, what was it now, like almost 4 years ago. I was given the Road Back to You as a birthday present. My sister-in-law knew that I was super into personality things in general. And I was really into Myers-Briggs at that point because I'm an INFJ. And I really enjoyed knowing I was an INFJ, the rarest Myers-Briggs type. And so reading The Road Back to You, I started reading it, and then I took a couple of tests. And the funny thing is my tests came out as a 3 and as a 5. I took it twice.
Ooh,
And both
okay.
of those, there was something about it that rang a little true, but just weren't, like they just didn't hit the nail on the head. And so as I was reading through The Road Back to You, the 4 chapter started making me feel really yucky. And I realized that authenticity bone is something that has kind of ran through my entire life, and that I must be an Enneagram 4. And I think I thought through it even for a couple of days before I said it out loud, because I was so afraid of that dramatic, self-absorbed part being true
Yeah.
about me. But the more that I could kind of sit in it and see that it was to some degree, but also how much I've grown and how many good things there was about being an Enneagram 4, I really started to claim it and work through it. And yeah, now I'm really proud of being an Enneagram 4, especially doing a lot of Enneagram coaching. I can very confidently say there is no better Enneagram type. We all have our struggles, and yeah, I think I bring a lot to the world. So I'm really happy to be an Enneagram 4.
Yeah, I remember for me, because quarantine really did a number on me, because I've always known, okay, I'm an introvert. I've always known that, but I'm the kind of introvert that likes people to be there as an option, but not as a necessity where it's like, I need to entertain them. I need to engage with them. I like them there. If I want to, okay, then I can go and approach and socialize, but at any time I can go and be by myself. I
Yeah, very
like those
optional.
interactions. Yes, I'm an optional, like, socialist, I guess, in a
Mhm.
very unpolitical way.
Yes.
um, but for me, because I actually started going to what was it, like this, like, therapy that my work offered. And because I took like this test during quarantine, and I got 9 out of 10 for borderline personality disorder, and it's like, oh, like this
Wow.
isn't good. And it was like, But my therapist, she said, nah, she doesn't think that's it because they usually don't. If you have BDP, you usually aren't very quick at recognizing it or wanting help for it. You usually resist. Usually, it's very hard to get that figured out. But then
Mm,
I knew about the enneagram. I knew people like that did it, and I looked into it, and I immediately my results was 4, and I read it, and it was like language for the first time being
mm,
like applied to me, where it's like all those times where it's just like I feel like something's just wrong with me. Like everyone else has it figured out, they have this joy and happiness, but something's wrong with me where it's like I just can't have it. And it was just, and even the stuff like the bad stuff is like, okay, I know that all to be true. The authenticity part was like, I've never really put it like that.
mm,
But then it was like, I guess that is true. Like I would rather be authentic with how I feel. Like I don't like how I'm feeling. Everybody knows, and it's kind of sucky too because I can't mask how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling sad and everything, I cannot act happy. My girlfriend knows it, and it sucks because like I'll sigh and she's like, "What's going on?" And it's like, "Dang it!" Like because, but then like the 5, I was reading that too, and it was like, wow, that really. Besides them not being as emotional, because I
mm.
am definitely super emotional, so it's like if I wasn't a 4, I'd be a 5. 3, no, not really, not much at all. Besides like the charming chameleon thing, like I think I can do that. Like if I need to in a social setting, like be charming and I guess quick witted and
Yeah, but
that kind.
we're so socially aware that sometimes
Right.
it's hard not to turn that on when someone is really asking for it, I'd say.
Right. And you and I we're both social 4s.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're already pretty socially out there. But unlike Elizabeth, I'm an INFP, not an INFJ. That's why I don't know if it makes my thoughts more scattered, where I pause a whole lot more. But apparently, that's an INFP trait.
Oh,
I've read a
interesting.
lot. So how was like growing up? When you look back, when it comes to because you're 4 now, I guess how would you say that affected growing up? Like, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, it's really interesting now looking back, knowing I'm a 4 and looking at baby 4 Elizabeth, because baby 4 Elizabeth was raised by a 5 and a 3, which I think
Mm.
is one of the reasons why I tested as those two. Just both of my parents' influences being really heavy still
Mhm.
in my early 20s, um, and my mom is a 3, and being a girl, I feel like she had a certain way of coping with her emotions and a certain way that she saw her emotions. And a lot of that was put on me, especially as the first daughter.
Hmm.
I heard a lot about the evils of being dramatic, that was not acceptable. I heard a lot of women cry to get their way, stuff like that. And so to this day, it's very interesting because I could be sobbing, having the worst day in the world. My mom would call, I'd answer the phone, and I sound just like I do right now. I
Yeah.
almost cannot like break through that barrier, especially with my mom. And it's just really interesting. And I know a lot of that impacted me as a kid, of being kind of shut off towards that. I remember a lot of crying in the bathroom. Like I would get really upset and really emotional, but I wasn't safe to display it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would definitely say my experience being a guy growing up, I guess it was similar, but it was like not that guys cry to get attention, it's that guys don't cry.
Hmm.
Like you're not allowed to cry. And I was the only boy like in the house because my parents divorced when I was like 8, and I had 3 older sisters. And it wasn't a thing of like, oh, you're the baby and they took care of you. No, it was like no one has your side. And
Yeah.
so there was a lot of times where I was just spent my time outside in the woods or reading books once I discovered that fantastic world of fiction and fantasy with Harry Potter and Animorphs and just all of that amazing stuff. And so for me, it was definitely like it's odd to think there's people in my life who've never seen me cry.
Mm.
Like my sisters and stuff, they've never really seen me cry, and it's like that's odd. I cry all the time, just not in front of people. Like it's just like if I cry in front of someone, it's like I've really been brought to my limit, and it's like it's very uncomfortable too.
Mm.
And that was probably being raised where it's like my father wasn't there, and there was a lot of things. Yeah, it's like especially as like a Christian man does this, does that, and being emotional wasn't one of them. Actually, it was only like 2 years ago, I think, where my mom responded to a status of mine. It was about men being able to show emotions and that their girlfriends will continue to support them. And my mom's comment on that was that a crying man sickens me. And it's like I'm a man, mom. Like wow, that really hit me to the core. And yeah, so it's definitely like being emotional. Like even though it's like I'm a 4, I can be very emotional. It's like really hard to express because like that was not really allowed.
Yeah. No, it's like to you, it was like the greatest weakness was being emotional.
Right. Or it was that my sisters, if they were emotional, they would get support. If I
Mm.
was like, no one really knew how to handle it. And especially being as a 4, and it's just like I guess emotions not being validated, like that they're okay, and that especially being a guy, you're not supposed to have them in the first place. And then if they're too much, no matter if you're a girl or a guy, they're not right.
Yeah, it's just confirming that fear of you're too much. And then you're not enough. You're not masculine enough if you
R-
also have these emotions.
Right. Either you're too much or not enough. I think that's what a lot of 4s feel like. And that's actually come up in like even relationship where it's like either I feel like I'm doing too much or I'm not doing enough. It's so
Yeah.
hard to find a balance.
Well, it's that push pull with 4s. And I think it's just that, like, we can be really clingy or we can be really independent. And there's
Yeah,
not a whole lot of in between.
there's not. You basically have to do just really fast, and from everybody
Yeah.
else, it looks like you're being really committed, and you're just going really fast back and forth. That's because actually in the relationship, the girlfriend I have now, leading up to it, for a while there, it's just like it's like I don't want to be abandoned. Maybe I should just call this off before she does. That was like part of like my thinking, and it's just like, but I don't want to be like this. I know this is a 4 thing. I don't want to be like that. Like just because it's like I'm a 4 doesn't mean these negative traits, these things we do, we don't have to do them just because, well, you're justified. That's what your type does.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely not the right way to use foolishness. And I think it's a very immature way to do it, not seeing that you can grow past those things. But I think it's really interesting in my relationship with my husband. I never really experienced that push pull, but if I look
Mm.
back, what I think happened was I had a super intense crush on my husband for about 8 months before he even noticed me. And I think I did all my push pulling then. Like I would
Mm.
intensely feel this crush towards him, and then I would push him away and be like, I'm not going to think about him. I'm blocking him on Facebook. I can't do it. And then I would go back to like, oh my gosh, I have such an intense crush on him, and I was just so fearful that like I was going to log on to Facebook someday and he was going to be in a relationship, or that
Mm.
I was going to say something wrong, or that something was going to happen and then I would lose all chance of him ever liking me. So by the time that like we did like confirm our relationship, I was just like sold 100% in. And I think it is because I went through all that wishy-washiness and trying to protect myself so much early on that by the time he was like, I choose you, and he was also very serious and very committed. So I
Hmm.
didn't have much room to doubt his intentions.
Yeah.
I think that helped too. But yeah, it was really interesting. I do feel like I did that early on.
Ryan, you told me before that he's a 1.
Yes.
So it's like very just like, okay. I it's interesting because we can be kind of like 1s when it comes to being principled and perfectionist with aesthetics. They're not. I don't know if they're perfectionists with aesthetics, but they're perfectionists like with morals and stuff like that. But one thing I love about ones, they may be kind of black and white, but when they make a decision, this is the right thing to do, this is what they want to do, they just do it. Like
Yeah.
they don't really hesitate. They don't think, how does their heart feel? They just, this is the right decision, and they do it. Like, I don't know if you know Andy Stanley,
Yes, I do.
but him and his wife are both ones, and it's like that's why they do so much, because they just decide they're gonna do it and they do it. And I can't do that. It's like if my heart is not in it, it's gonna be very hard for me to commit to that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I feel like I have so many situations where like I just need my husband to tell me over and over again, okay, why are we doing this? Why is this the right thing to do? And he's very stick with it. If he decides something, he's doing it. And I think a lot of it is that gut response, right? It's just that
Mm.
this felt right immediately. And especially my husband's a business major, and so a lot of
Oof.
things we kind of run this business of doing Enneagram Life together. So I feel like he has a lot of business knowledge, so he's very cut and dry, like, nope, this is
Hmm.
right, this is wrong. And I'm so feeling based that like I have
Yeah.
such a propensity to get my feelings hurt and get emotions wrapped up in things and push and pull and do all these things, and he's like, no, like this is what you do, this is what's right in business, which is helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine like my girlfriend, she's a 7. She is just amazing at reframing something very joyfully, very optimistically. Like, instead of saying she had a rough day, she'll say she had it was hopping, or it was fun. Like, she uses fun in a way I never would, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to.
Mm.
Like if a road is kind of like, oh, I think I did this on Friday. Yesterday the road was all torn up, and it's like, that looks fun. And she noticed. She's like, I'm rubbing off on you, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fun. Alrighty, guys, that's going to be the end of the episode this time. But tune in for the next few episodes where we continue the conversation with Elisabeth Bennet about 4s. In the next episode, we are going to continue the conversation talking about emotions as a 4, how they mellow out with age, or do they not. We're also going to be talking more about relationships and 4s and stress, and what that has personally looked like in our lives and in our relationships that we both are in. She is married to a 1. I am dating a 7, and we'll go over more of that in the next episode. But I hope you guys tune in for that. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode, and I will catch you guys later.